Thanks for joining us today, Pauline. I think it's going to be great to have a little bit of a discussion about a social work perspective in terms of compassionately viewing depression, and also from myself as a mental health nurse. So do you want to start? Do you want to tell me a little bit about what you do as a social worker when it comes to somebody with depression?
Yes. I worked for many years with people with depression, and I suppose we often used to say low mood until I actually maybe worked with somebody like you, or worked with a doctor who would say then that there was that diagnosis of depression. But yes, and I was very aware when I went to see somebody who, I understood to be of low mood, or who, perhaps wasn't kind of functioning as they normally would. It might be because they'd had a bereavement or something else may have happened, but it may have been something actually that, just over a period of time, people had recognised that they weren't what might be considered their normal self, or that they just weren't coping. And that could actually be quite serious, especially maybe if children were involved, other people were involved. And so I'd be thinking as well about the impact, not just on the person themselves, but on anybody else, children or anybody else that was living with them. But, I'd be very aware that I didn't want them to be worried or scared about the fact that I was a social worker. I would go in with this view that I just wanted to listen to them, and hopefully they would talk to me about how they were feeling and what was happening in their lives. But all the time, I suppose, not doing the paperwork, because obviously there's official paperwork if it is an assessment or anything, but I wouldn't go in like that. I would go in, in my mind thinking, I just want to cover a few things with this person. I want to find out about, what life is like for them at the moment. I'd be taking into account maybe the environment as well.
Yes, of course.
And they might be saying things like, I used to be really good at, keeping up with the housework. I just don't feel like I can do anything now. The children are annoying me. They never used to. I used to have great patience. I haven't now. I'd be trying to pick up all the time on.
So they're the little subtle changes, aren't they? And I think that from both a nursing perspective and a social work perspective, we would be doing the same, wouldn't we, in that sense? We are looking for those little subtle clues. And I think from a mental health nursing perspective, we would perhaps go in a little bit more looking at the actual mental health itself, and we would be doing those formal assessments really. Whereas, from your perspective, it's much more of a holistic view, isn't it?
It is. I'd be trying to kind of think about all of the issues. I'd be thinking about, I'd be interested in what you were saying from a mental health nursing, from the doctor's point of view about what is the diagnosis, is there one? And, the kind of how low the mood is or not, or how extreme this is, and how, people then need to cope with it. So from all the professionals' point of view. So it would be really nice to work with you. You'll be giving me lots of information. I too would be giving you information through looking at things like the social environment. Has this person got friends? Do they go out, or has all of that stopped? Were they going to work and then now they don't feel that they can go to work, that they're not able to do that?
So we'd work very much as a team, wouldn't we really, as an interprofessional team?
We would.
Thinking about, if we're thinking about groups, you may be looking at social groups to, increase that social element. But we also, from a mental health perspective, might be thinking about what groups the person can go to help lift their mood and change the way they're feeling at that time. So we would work together, wouldn't we, to be able to do that?
And other professionals as well. And I think both of us actually would be very aware about signposting to the right kind of support and help and advice that's available. So it may be something like finances that are causing a real issue. And of course, as a social worker then, I would be advising maybe about benefits, other funds that might be available, telling the person about that. And it might be that some sort of support group, I again would be very aware of what's available in that community. And for instance, somebody who may have a bereavement or, is going through a bereavement, an organisation like Cruse could be very helpful, and I know have been very helpful because they understand, you know, and the people in those groups, you know, have been through these experiences. So it's very helpful sometimes for a person to feel they're not on their own. It's not just them. Actually, other people can be experiencing a similar thing. I know we work in a very personalised way, so we do, you know, treat the person, respect their individuality. But actually it can be helpful sometimes, you know, just to know, or that person to know that there's other people.
Absolutely. It's that common humanity, isn't it? It's that, you know, you're not alone in this. There are other people. And from our experience, we've seen other people, so we can share that, can't we? And I think, you know, and we do work together. And from a mental health perspective, what we might decide is somebody is actually low and needs medication. So, you know, both from a social work perspective and a mental health nursing perspective, we may support that person to have that medication, monitor that medication, make sure it's the right medication, to help that person get well. But I think from both of our perspectives, the important thing for us, isn't it, is that that person has all the tools available to them, and we are able to facilitate those for them to improve.
We want to make sure that when we're working with that person that, you know, we've done all we can. We've told them about everything that might be available to them, signposted to where, you know, we feel it would be appropriate. And actually, the other thing that I would do as a social worker, it might be that literally is a one-off visit. It might just be that I need to see that person once, but it might be that actually I need to work with them over a longer period of time, and that's what I do, because that person, you know, just in 1 or 2 visits isn't going to form any kind of relationship with me enough to be able to then trust me, you know, feel confident in actually then moving forward. And I would be very much looking at, well, my focus initially would be on them, as the person, but as a social worker I would be thinking about other people as well. So but then that would help them, that would help that person.
Absolutely.
So if I could find something, for instance, for the children, for something for them to go to, playgroup, nursery, if it's in the holidays, some kind of scheme, you know, where the children are being kind of cared for and looked after.
Absolutely, that would
maybe that person then would feel that some of that weight is off them, you know, from having to do that caring, and could lift them enough then to be able to deal with some of their own issues, you know, to move forward.
And from a mental health perspective, what we would be looking at is ensuring, I mean, like you said, the social worker might only do one visit. From a mental health team perspective, what we would need to do is make sure that the person got the right service, because there are lots of different services in the mental health services. So it's making sure that they've got the right person involved, whether that be a community mental health nurse, whether it be a cognitive behaviour therapist or some other form of therapist, or maybe it is the fact that they need to go to see a consultant psychiatrist. The important thing is that we work together to make sure the right people are in that team, to make sure that we can do all we can to help that person become well.
And I think what's really important is, and we will both come from this, I'm sure our values will be the same, and people who, whatever the profession is, if we're working with people, caring about and for people, we will have the same values. And so we do want to work with them in a compassionate way. And it's quite nice to think about how do we do that. And I think that is about our understanding. You know, we've been in the job long enough to kind of be able to understand and see people in different situations, to understand maybe what they're going through, and, you know, to have that empathy, but also in the way that we actually communicate with people. You know, we want them to feel that we really do care. We absolutely care. We want them to feel better, to be able to cope, give them those coping strategies.
Absolutely.
But that's the way that we approach it, you know, and that's hopefully that comes across to people, and that will make them feel more confident and actually, you know, take the support, the advice that we can give.
And become well.
So, and become well, and that's what we want.
Thanks very much for talking to us today, Pauline. That's been really helpful.
Thank you. It's been lovely to talk to you as well.